In a world filled with conflict, in a universe comprised of differences, there's one thing that absolutely everything shares in common. We all exist. Including two guys named Jack and Michael, who like to chat about that very thing over a good cup of coffee. Let's pay them a visit, shall we?
Existence Brewing.
Here I sit, just tapping on my...
Do you have any eggs, sir?
Oh, yes,
sir?
yes.
Oh, wait, hey.
I have eggs.
All right, just hitting up people. I'm hitting up my egg dealers here, because that's what happens now when you walk down the dark alleyways. Instead of crack or fentanyl, they're popping out and going, hey, I got some great Plymouth Rocks from this morning. They were just hatched, you know.
The Plymouth Rocks.
I'll take a dozen. Look at the yolks on these fuckers, eh?
So have eggs hit the black market now?
They'd have to. The prices are going through the roof. I love how Denny's is in crisis, and that's what you're hearing about is all these restaurants. They're adding surcharges now for eggs. Your Grand Slam is $1 more suddenly because they upcharge on the eggs until the crisis is over. Do you remember the movie Mr. Mom?
The crisis. Yes, tuna fish.
There you go. Exactly. And so that's exactly what I'm thinking of is Terry Garr's marketing campaign in that she pitched to Martin Mull. Well, she pitched as part of Martin Mull's team. Martin Mull, by the way, played a great asshole.
Very good.
In that movie.
Wonderful.
I thought Martin Mull was one of the best skeezy assholes.
Class A
ever.
asshole. Yes.
Yeah, he was great. And Martin's a really super nice guy, apparently. He's a comedian, and so he would never be like that in real life, right? So
of course not.
Anyway. And he's probably like 100 now anyway, so it doesn't even matter. Most people are like, Martin, who? What the fuck are they
Gene
talking
Hackman
about?
was 96, so...
Gene, yeah, we lost Gene today. Anyway, so that whole thing makes me think about the tuna fish campaign.
Yeah, what was the name of that company?
Schooner Tuna.
Schooner Tuna, yeah.
Yeah, and we're going to lower the price, or we're going to increase the price of our tuna by 50 cents a can, which was a lot back then. Today it's like, you can blink and it goes up by that much.
Right.
But back then it was a big deal. And then it was, when this crisis is over, we'll go back to our regular prices. Remember, we're all in this together. Signed Howard Hoover, I think was his name, President Schooner Tuna.
Schooner Tuna.
And then everybody expected her to just be laughed out of the room. And he has this classic old, cigar smoking, just plutocratic corporate fucking asshole response, like, where have you been hiding this little girl? That's bleeding heart patriotism. I love this bleeding heart ship. That's American. That's what that is. Like, oh god, they played him perfectly.
Yeah, that was great.
The guy who owns the fucking tuna fish empire is a dick. Imagine that, of course.
Yeah, the tuna is...
And a misogynist, too. Oh, no, that would never be the case.
Yeah,
but this was the 80s, too. So, yeah, the oligarchy of tuna. Oh, well, anyway. But, yeah, the egg thing. I'm getting sick and tired of hearing about fucking eggs everywhere I go.
By the way, Jack, how did you know that was my screen name?
The oligarchy of tuna. I thought that was Kardashian's screen name. You made a reference to her a second ago, or the last time I saw you, and I said you made my anus hurt a little bit. I don't even like to acknowledge I know who those people are, because I really don't. I just know that there's a show about them.
Whatever.
Never seen it.
It's
never
called
will.
vocal burn. It's a thing. Vocal burn. Whatever.
I'm sorry to bring up the in my day thing, the old man, but in my day, you actually had to do something to be famous. It wasn't much that was required of you, even. Yes, there were like the Hervé Villechaize of the world. All he had to do was be short and say, the plane, every week when he came on the air with Ricardo Montalban, and everything was great. but he still did something, and he did it damn well. He was really short, and he said, boss, the plane, in a perfect Cuban accent. The Kardashian, what do they don't do anything. They're not good at anything. They're not interesting. They're not funny. I mean, they're just rich and pretty, and they're fake pretty at that. And so what the fuck? What is the big deal about why would anybody invest their time in keeping up with them? Fuck them. I want to keep up with anything or anybody that's like that. I get enough of that when I'm having to drive through the affluent neighborhoods when I'm on my way to somewhere that I probably shan't be because I don't belong there.
Whatever, Jack. You just don't understand.
Yeah, see, I don't even really know what you're doing right now because I've never seen the show and I don't intend to. So I guess that's a Kardashian thing.
Whatever.
Well, anyway, so I'm not going to they've gotten as much airtime as they're going to get on our podcast ever. But there you go. In a Kardashian nutshell, there you go.
Oh, yes. You know,
and I hope they hear about this so they can say, poor and white, how terrible for him. You know, and I was like, yeah, great. Sure. Super.
1,000 tears. Yeah.
Schooner Tuna.
Schooner Tuna.
That should be their screen name. Fucking the oligarchies of tuna. Yeah, that's the Kardashians.
What was the slogan on that campaign too, by the way? The can with a heart?
The tuna with a heart.
The tuna with a heart.
I always remember when they were going through the ones that were pitched previous to her entering the room and they got rejected. Yeah. And the one was Yum Yum Tuna Bits. That's very funny. I was just to this day I've never quite understood that. Yum Yum Tuna Bits.
Yum Yum Tuna Bits.
Why would you? Why? Okay, moving on. You know what the tale was? My aunt. She wasn't really my aunt. She's one of those family friends that you called your aunt. So we had an aunt and a cousin that weren't related by blood. They were just a friend of my mother's, which was rare. My mom didn't really have too many friends. She was kind of to herself. But her name was Sandy. And she had a daughter named Erin. And so it was cousin Erin and Aunt Sandy. So Aunt Sandy was in town visiting from Oregon, where she hailed from. And I always admired her license plate. She drove a yellow Capri, a yellow Ford, or was it the Ford that made the Capri? I think so. And it had the old Oregon solid goldenrod, that shitty mustard yellow license plate. And she used to come up and I would stare at it endlessly in the driveway and go, that's not right. So I just remember her license plate on her car because she'd come visit us. And I was just like, Mom, why is the license plate weird? It doesn't look like ours. And so it threw me off. But she's in town. And this is funny that this would talk about full circle from Ep 1 of the podcast almost a year ago. It's okay. Well, Jack, get your friend. My friend Eric was over for the weekend and let's get everybody together and go to the movies. What do you kids want to see? Oh, Jaws 3D. So we're wanting to go see Jaws 3D, the epic. I'd already seen it, but of course I got to see it again. So we get there and the projector or the film.
Damn shark's mother?
Yes, exactly. Something's wrong with the film and we can't see Jaws 3D, which is the biggest break my Aunt Sandy ever got because it's a horrible movie. She would have hated it. And instead, in the opposing theater, they were playing Mr. Mom. And so we saw that instead. So I saw that movie in the theater when it came out in 82.
You're telling me that...
True story. Cross it. Swear to God.
You guys had to... and then it broke and you had to get up and go over and watch.
No. It wasn't it didn't interrupt the film. We got there and it was, 5 for Jaws 3, please. And they were like, oh, I'm sorry.
Excuse me. We're not going to be showing Jaws 3, the projector is jammed.
Is that what it sounded like?
We're going to need to go to projector 5. Yeah.
It's a movie about a shark, and it's a clean one. That's how we like our sharks. Clean and toothy. It's an inside joke. We shouldn't do that. No one knows who we're talking about.
Nobody knows.
Anyways, no, they didn't. It wasn't. The film didn't melt in the middle of the thing like in Gremlins, where somebody didn't break into the projector room and spill celery tonic on the.
Oh, I love that movie.
Film that happened. Remember, that's what happened in Tootsie, where they had to film it live. That's what they said. They said he spilled celery tonic on the film. Who the hell drinks celery tonic? Who wrote that line? Celery tonic? What is that? I didn't even know they made that. But yeah. So anyway, we got there and 5 for Jaws 3. Oh, I'm sorry. The projecting equipment's not working. The film's broken. Something's wrong with it. You can't see Jaws 3. Oh, the kids. And then, of course, my mom. Well, what about this Mr. Mom? She's like, yeah, that's got Michael Keaton. He's handsome. And Terry Garr is so lovely.
And you're going,
so
no, I wanted to see some shark eat people.
I did. I wanted to see hands that were severed floating in bad 3D. But I actually liked Mr. Mom. It's a good movie.
It's a great movie.
I was fine. We enjoyed it.
You know, that is actually one of the first movies, because of course I was raised in the 80s, and as every good child of the 80s will attest to, VHSs were just like your life. I mean, I pretty much had every cultural reference sewn into my DNA, kind of like Superman when he's in that little star thing, and you hear the voice of Marlon Brando. That was one of the first movies I ever saw on VHS.
Mr. Mom?
Mr. Mom.
Oh, wow. Cool. Yeah, I've seen that movie. I could probably quote at least 60 to 70% of the dialogue with total succinct accuracy.
Okay, let me give you a test.
Oh, wow. Okay. I had to say something.
Clean up on aisle 12.
With Irv in the store? Clean up on aisle 12?
And then what does he say at the cash register?
How about, Irv, are these Kotex maxi pads on special? It's all right, Irv. Never mind. Forget about it. Yes. Okay. And then, no, the important part is what Irv says back. Okay, Kotex, 19 cents off, because he's right on it. Because Irv is the mind, body, and soul of that supermarket.
Yes.
He's everywhere.
Irv, we were never in aisle 7. That's one of my favorites.
Oh, right. Yeah, there you go. And then there's the hitting of the shopping cart. I have the right of way. Yeah, right. Sorry. Here. And he throws chips in her basket, settle out of court. And he's like, oh, weirdo. And it's like, yeah, you don't feel.
All those women come over to his house and he's like part of this women group.
Well, yeah, but that's, part of the charm of the show.
We have to watch that movie.
He was buying cheese and ham at the store. That was great. Because I love long lists of things, like being a George Carlin fan. Of course, I love long lists of things that can be memorized if you can do it. And she has that great,
yes, provolone.
And I'm trying to remember the hams or the meats. She's just like, give me a pound of ham, and he's like, you want boiled, baked, salt cured, double cured, sugar cured, or what's failure? And she's like, okay, never mind. Instead, just give me a half a pound of cheese. It's American blue provolone. And then she goes on this thing, and that we have the entire Cheddar family. There was some in between the ending, but anyway.
I love that movie. I need to watch that again.
Stuff. Yeah, I should watch that movie again too. It's a fine film. I'm actually kind of going through that now because I've finally started going to the gym. So
wonderful.
I mean, and don't get me wrong. It's just like a mile on the treadmill once a day to start out with. And I'm not going to go nuts. I'm not going to become some gym rat. I hate that stuff.
No, you will. You eventually will. You know what? If you
eventually will.
Here's the thing that I have found about the gym is that if it's working for you, you will go as often as you need to, and you won't dread it.
I don't dread it.
And I just feel like you are going about it the perfect way, because if you go there just to do one thing and you don't even set a certain amount of time and it just becomes part of your routine, the routine is the key. That's the key.
That's what's been hard to get implemented.
If you can make it part of your thing, you're going to come to a point in your day where if you don't go to the gym, you'll feel like something's off.
Yeah, well, I kind of almost feel that way. Plus, when I finally get started with something, like I'm, cardinal, so I'm, a Cancer sun. So cardinal, like is always said about cardinal signs, they're great starters, but poor finishers. But, once they start something, I mean, when I set my mind to something, I'm going to at least do it for a while until, I'll get to my goal. And then we might start seeing me trail off and hit rock bottom, but then I can just do it all over again, right?
Yeah, there you go. Just start all over again.
That scene when my girlfriend will come home and I'll be covered in spice drops, just yeah, and that noise will happen. So exactly. So yes, You took a
Well,
breath.
I was going to say, ordering things can sometimes be a challenge. When we first started coming to this coffee place, and the terminology that you have to use when ordering a cappuccino, or is it iced, is it tall? I was very insecure about that. And, I must say, it was probably a very bad week to be a Frappuccino. If you noticed, Starbucks is going to be discontinuing 13 drinks.
Oh, so they finally came out with the list. I didn't see this.
10 of which are Frappuccinos.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Which ones? Like the ridiculous, stupid ones that are $40?
Some of them that I didn't even know. Well, all of them are $40. I mean, that's kind of part of the territory, right? But no, some of them were ones that I didn't even realize were Frappuccinos, which is probably why they're going off the Frappuccino list. So I was going to give you a little rundown of them, just so we can kind of maybe talk a little bit about this amongst ourselves. Of the Frappuccinos that are being canceled from Starbucks menu officially, the espresso Frappuccino, which I think is a complete oxymoron.
That's the base Frappuccino of all Frappuccinos,
You
right?
would think, right? Every Frappuccino should be an espresso Frappuccino, but the espresso Frappuccino is going to be nixed. Also, the cafe vanilla Frappuccino, the Java chip Frappuccino.
It used to be very popular, that one.
Yeah, and I think most of these that I'm about to rattle off are probably kind of just like really expensive blizzards, essentially, at Starbucks. I mean, the white
it's
chocolate.
A glorified Frosty.
It is. It's a glorified Frosty, which is probably why people woke up and said, yeah, I don't need an 800-calorie coffee. The white chocolate mocha Frappuccino. The chai cream Frappuccino, but it's spelled with a creme. The caramel ribbon crunch creme Frappuccino.
Okay,
that sounds like a blizzard if I ever did hear one. The
caramel ribbon crunch. That sounds like something the Keebler elves make.
It does, doesn't it? The double chocolatey chip creme Frappuccino. The chocolate cookie crumble creme Frappuccino. Going back to our little scene in Mr. Mom there. The white chocolate creme Frappuccino. The white hot chocolate, which is not a Frappuccino, but it's just a white hot chocolate.
Oh, right, sure. Because chocolate's not actually... White chocolate isn't chocolate, by the way. It's just a confection. It's not...
Okay.
There's no chocolate in it. There's
no chocolate in white chocolate.
In the jungles of Belize grows a rare bean of the albino variety. It's like, it's not... You're going to catch it on a special with James Earl Jones. God, I almost said James Edward almost.
Or I was going to say, who's the British the British man who does the documentaries? Nature.
Attenborough,
Attenborough. In the dark of the jungle, you will find that guy. Okay, speaking of which, the Royal Attenborough English Breakfast Latte.
Oh my God, no kidding. We literally went to Attenborough Breakfast Latte. Really?
No, I just made that up. It's the Royal English Breakfast Latte, which I think is probably like a London Fog. Have you ever had a London Fog?
Oh, yeah, those are delicious. In fact, my girlfriend and I know the best place on the planet to get London Fogs.
And where's that?
It's a little small town. Kettle Falls, Washington.
Kettle Falls?
Best London Fogs we've ever had, Kettle Falls, Washington.
I'll have to tell
she
me.
actually got it, and then I took a sip and was just like, hello, what did I do? This was stupid what I got.
Wow.
So, yeah, very, very good.
What made the London Fog in Kettle Falls, if I might add?
The perfect piquant balance of lavender compared to the fog. You know what I mean?
Oh, yes.
Like some of these London fogs you run into these days, mate, it's like there's a little bit too much fog going on. You know what I mean? And then not enough the lavender on the back end. And then sometimes it's like, whoa, this is way too much lavender over here. So
you got to have the perfect balance, yes, of the you can't have an undercarriage that is too heavy.
No, perfect, exactly. There's no undercarriage on this at all. This beast was just perfectly balanced from axle to axle. You know what I mean? Yeah, it was good.
I love it.
Actually, what made it good was it was actually a little bit sweet. There was a little bit, but it was a lavender sweet. It wasn't Because a lot of them you get, and they're a little plain. And if they're going to be plain, at least the tea should be steeped. I like my tea steeped a long time, so it's very herby.
Yes.
So anyway,
Very dank.
it's yes, a dank tea.
And then the honey almond milk flat white is rounding off the list of 13 drinks that Starbucks is going to be discontinuing. So
Wow.
of the
Okay.
13, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 9 of them
9 are fraps.
frappuccinos.
Wow. Weren't they like the original mob family, the Frappuccinos?
The Frappuccino? Yeah, the
Frappuccino gang that used to run on the west side, you know,
the underworld.
Frappuccino?
They probably were kind of like the Belltown Frappuccinos,
Belltown.
you know?
You know, Donatelli Frappuccino over there with all his money and his glitch and all that icy shit that's rolling out of his face all the time is best. Yeah, okay, well, I'm not going to miss him because I'm not a frequenter of Starbucks any longer. I quit that habit several years ago.
That's
We've gone
right.
over on the podcast before, but I'm sorry to anybody who drinks those drinks. They'll be mourning them, and they'll probably actually be in, like, uber petulant mode for
Light
a
a
year
candle.
or more because people freak when their favorite stuff gets discontinued from these fast food restaurants and other places. The Starbucks used to be very straightforward, you know. I mean, it used to just be, and they were very serious about being just very straightforward. Like when the mom and pop espresso stands popped up and they were serving bubblegum lattes,
Mm-hmm.
Starbucks looked the other way and said, we'll never do that. We are all about one thing, and that's brewing the best possible cup of coffee with just the right accents. And they only had a couple of syrups. Vanilla, caramel, hazelnut, as I recall, and almond maybe were like the big four. And that was it. And chocolate, of course, you could get if you wanted a mocha. A mocha. I remember a mocha. I went to one place, I remember years ago when the espresso thing started taking off and the guy was insistent. He was just like, no, you know, it's called a mocha, right? And he did have this sort of indistinguishable accent. It was like, well, where are you from exactly? And it's just like, never mind about that. It's mocha. You just say mocha. He insisted on it.
You always have to
like-
be cautious with a man who will never identify his accents.
Any man that will not put a hard C on a CH or a hard K sound.
Or just, you know, he's probably from Portland. And he probably was
No.
just passing for some, you know, very indistinguishable man of mystery.
My guess was worse than that, like Roseburg or Grants Pass, you know. It was like a Portlandian wannabe
Yes.
who's actually from downstate, you know. So
Where are you
Yeah,
from?
well,
It's a lovely accent. Where are you from? Oxnard.
yeah, Grants Pass.
Grants Pass.
They have a big caveman statue there. I have a picture of me in front of it. At least they used to have it. It was just like, welcome to Grants Pass. Look out for the troglodytes. They're everywhere.
Were you like, it's the Geico commercial.
Oh, God. Don't get me started on Geico. I was just flaming Geico on my own leaving the radio booth today because there was one of their commercials on. When are we going to get rid of them? When is Geico and all big insurance and all of this? We make fun commercials that make insurance seem interesting and approachable. Just fucking die already. And all of the best young comedy writers are clearly being wooed. They're shilling out and going to work for these fuckers because they're the ones that are getting, like, the top end writers are not going to SNL. They don't want to work for, what's his name? Who's the guy who created that show?
Lauren Michaels.
Lauren Michaels. Yeah, they don't want to work for Lauren anymore. They want to go work for fucking Flo or the Gecko. I just hate insurance commercials so much. The old ones were fine because they were exactly as they should have been always. It was always an old couple, a grandma and grandpa with their grandson on the front lawn of a really modest-sized home making paper airplanes that the kid was throwing around in the air with some, you know, it was completely pastoral. It was totally this, nobody cared. And that's the way insurance should be. It's forced criminal bullshit anyway. And so then all of a sudden, Geico decided we're going to change the rules and make these like kids cereal commercials. They're going to be zippy and zany and interesting and fun and fuck you. Insurance sucks. And it always fucking will. It's
Okay.
a legal criminal enterprise.
So since we're on the topic of commercials, I want to bring up one of my favorite categories of commercials. And one of my favorite industries that is advertising like crazy nowadays, which is big pharma. And some of the things that they do to make their pharmaceuticals relevant, like the dancing in the street from the Jardians.
Diabetes, but I manage it well. It's a little pill with a big story to tell. I take once daily Jardians at each day stop.
And then it breaks out into a musical.
It was easy to see.
Well, sure, because
She's lowering her A1C. Hey, it's the mailman. Hey,
you know who
Cliff.
started that?
What's that?
That trend was started by McDonald's back in the 80s and Sam Kinison framed that one perfectly when he's flipping through the channels and says, and I land on this commercial and everybody's literally like a street party has just erupted out of nowhere. People are singing and dancing on cars in the middle of the street over a fucking hamburger. And it's just like, yeah.
A lot of the pharmaceutical companies are doing it.
Insanity. And so they're taking a page out of the old, let's break out a rock and roll party in the street for a Big Mac. And now it's my Jardian because everybody cares about lowering their A1C. What is A1C? Is that like you have too much steak sauce in your fucking blood, or like?
I think it has something to do with diabetes, but
cholesterol or diabetes. Well, anyway, and these drug names are the things that kill me because they all have
Jardians. They
all have a name that is Jardians is the actual. You know, that would be like I don't know.
It's the friend
pop.
It's the friendly name.
Well, yeah, it's the brand name, I should say. That's what I'm going for. It's the brand name. It's not the actual drug name. The drug name is always
the drug name
X's and Z's, and it's unpronounceable.
Yeah, the drug name in this case is empagliflozin.
There you go. See, you couldn't even possibly say it the first time correctly. So,
empagliflozin.
And so we can't possibly get on TV and say, I am lowering my A1C with empagliflozin. They can't do that. So.
Yeah, so Jardians kind of makes it a little more catchy, a little more snappy.
Think about what does a Jardians sound like?
Giardia.
These drug names that they what?
Giardia. Yeah. Isn't that
Jardiance sounds like the language Jar Jar Binks would have spoken, or like Jar Jar Binks' parents would have been Jardians. Or
isn't Giardia what you get from drinking dirty water?
Yeah.
Symptoms include allergic reaction, including rash, swelling, and difficulty breathing or swallowing. Make sure that you discuss all current medications with your doctor. Tell your doctor about all medications you take, and if you have any medical conditions. If you start bleeding from your eyeballs, quit taking Jardians and quit dancing in the streets.
Quit dancing in the streets first.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a John Doe, and then they checked him, and he looked yellow enough, so he became a John Does, right? Exactly.
Giardia. Do we need to ask our producer, is Giardia what you get when you drink bad water or dirty water?
I think Giardia is the itching that can start when you watch the Kardashians too much, isn't it? Can't you actually get like kind of a rash? I've promised never to bring them up again on the show, and yet there it was. It's just so hard
in dogs.
When the big, fat, plump Kardashian ass pinata is sitting right there waiting to be poked repeatedly with my giant pool cue so that it can spew something that would satisfy me to think that it's in pain or at least dying.
Yeah, Giardia is a parasite. It's an infection in the intestines.
That was, you know what? Of all of the rants that I've ever gone on about Kim Kardashian or the Kardashians, that was the best one. That was the highest catharsis factor I've ever had with that whole thing right there. That's the one I've been waiting for. The piñata metaphor. Damn.
Lay that on us one more time so we can.
Thank God for this podcast.
Really
I'm
listen.
just thinking of like me taking just the hardiest whacks that are possible with this amazing, because they give you this stupid crude cudgel when you're supposed to hit the piñata. It's not going to break shit open.
No, it's like a broom handle, isn't it?
This is professional. I came to the site with a piñata and there's a Spanish guitar solo playing in the background, and I get a case like that holds a velvet lined case that's like it holds a pool cue, and I literally put it together. It screws together with 3 pieces, and it was made by a master piñata swatter in like Bulgaria or something. Some country you wouldn't expect that doesn't really have a lot of piñatas just
More like a
randomly hanging about in
samurai,
the
a
trees.
samurai of the piñata world.
And all of a sudden I'm ready, and they drop the thing, and it's the Kardashian piñata, and it's mostly just ass in those Lululemon fucking workout shorts that they wear everywhere, those $500 friggin' pieces of nylon, and I'm just whacking away. And after, it takes a couple of good wallops, but finally I breach the dam, and like this darkened fluid just starts to mass and bubble and writhe, and then it just spits out. And it's literally the piñata dying this horrible and deserving death, and I'm dancing in the rain of this. Oh, it's just fantastic. This is that might be a little too not what I was going for. It might be a little too Benny Hill for my taste.
Well, if I was going to throw a party, this is exactly what I would have during the piñata scene.
I'm thinking of like the really, Balearian, like Spanish guitar buildup.
Yeah, we can't play that because we'll get shut down because of copyrights. This is royalty free, so this is all we can afford right now.
Well, that diatribe alone should let people know why I highly identify with Bill Hicks and why I feel like we are kind of like the same person in some ways, because he was known for getting so angry that it's not so much that these people exist, it's the attention that they're so undeserving of that we lavish them with that is the problem. I guarantee you, I don't care if Carter Who is walking around and they're just doing their typical thing, partying in the Hamptons and being asshole, snobbish pricks wherever they go. We got a million of those people. We don't need them, but I don't wish them any ill will. I guess they're here for a reason. It's when they become famous, when they become like the focal point of time, precious time and resources in our day. This is when I lose my mind. And I feel like that's exactly how Bill felt, was just like, what are you doing? I'm having a Woody Allen moment. I don't understand it. Like, why are you doing this? It's Kardashian, just, so anyway.
Go back to Greenwich Village.
Greenwich Village, and I can't go back. That's a great sleeper line, actually.
That's great.
So I was going to start the podcast today by saying a big fuck you to Bill Gates, wherever he might be today.
Oh, boy. Hold on to your britches, Bill.
Well, so not that I haven't had enough cathartic reactions or interfaces today on the program, but I need one more apparently.
Yeah, no, sure.
So I have been writing on my laptops, plural, because I've gone through several of them over the last, 25 years or so. And I have written a number of things, not only just actual pieces of writing, what you might consider, or what one might loosely consider literature, short stories, random, thoughts, treatises, whatever, just things. But I've also got lots of lists that I keep. And, we all have a cache of precious things that are in writing. I would hope so, at least if we own a laptop computer. We do
you're
some
a writer.
Writing.
You are a writer, Jack. Well, so we got to preface that.
Even you must have something or a few files that you wouldn't want to necessarily lose.
Yeah, it's on the cloud.
Right. So, of course, as we know, Bill Gates is just an incredibly generous man. And so, therefore, Microsoft Word, which is the standard for writing anything down on a virtual piece of paper in his operating systems, which, of course, good luck finding a computer that doesn't run the shit, right? It's not free. It doesn't just come with the system. You have to pay for it. And it's an expensive upgrade. Even the home version now, I think, is pushing $200. So, of course, I'm not paying that just to write things down. To me, it's a basic function of having a computer and using it, is writing things down. So I've used WordPad for years. Not Notepad, which is really crude, and you can't really write on Notepad, but WordPad. So I write on WordPad. So all of my documents are RTF files. They're in WordPad. Go into my computer just yesterday, because I keep lists of words, because I'm a wordsmith and I like new words and I want to learn new words and study them and stuff. So I put them in my list. So I'm going to put a couple new words onto my list. and WordPad is gone. The default to open all of my former WordPad files that are in RTF format is now Word. And of course, I get the, hello, welcome to Word. You're not signed up. Where's your key?
Sorry.
If you don't have your...
I was asleep at the wheel.
Yeah. So I'm pretty upset, as you can imagine, because I have no way now of opening my files. They've been taken hostage. So I do some research. Come to find out, well, WordPad is no longer supported. Okay, well, fine. Does it need support? It doesn't really do anything. It's an incredibly basic file. It's been probably the same for decades now, and that's saying something because Microsoft and computers that did that weren't even a thing until like the 90s. So the last update apparently that Windows ran, of course, I've just got it set to do it automatically because I don't want to be troubled and harassed by my computer to do it. Not only did it update, and this is what you're thinking, what does update mean to you? Update means we're going to take files and program files, and we're going to update them. We're going to give you the latest software. We're going to update your oh shit files with the latest malware, so it recognizes it. Right? That's an update. No. This last update just went in and summarily executed WordPad. It just took it off my system.
Oh no!
And it did that to everybody that had WordPad. Now, a lot of people, of course, don't care because they're like, I don't care about WordPad. I don't use it. Well, I fucking do. And I want to know, Bill, Mr. Gates, how is that possible? That's like coming and saying, we're going to service your car. And I go to pick it up and the goddamn steering wheel's gone. And I say, where's my steering wheel? I need that to steer. And they say, oh yeah, we did an update. We took the fucking thing out. You got to pay for it if you want to put back. That's not the best business model. So I can guarantee you this. I downloaded a freeware thing so I can just write now and I have to save all my files in that now so I can open it in that format and everything. Guarantee you this, Bill, and I know you don't care. You can kiss me off because I'm also not rich and, have fun roasting with the Kardashians the next time you're over there. I'm sure they still have their WordPad. Oh, they can afford Word, though, so everybody has it, except they can't spell any fucking words, so what matters? Not at all. Anyway, I just like him to know I'm going to be shopping for a different ops system the next time around, and I typically will I'm an Alienware user by trade, but I'm going a different direction if I can't get one that won't run another ops system. Give me a break. You're going to get into my computer and remove programs that I've been using? Man, that doesn't sound much like America to me.
That really grinds my gears.
That guy was pissed.
Well, you should be.
I was pissed.
Well, and you can't do a recovery.
Well, no, you can, but of course it's some Vulcan mind meld thing, and I'm not a coder. It doesn't look like it's that. You have to go find a computer that still runs it that hasn't had the update. So basically you need one that has WordPad that's not Windows 11. Because Windows 11 is the one that doesn't support. And isn't it funny that they seem to have stopped at 11? Is it me, or has Windows not had an actual new numerical update in like a fucking decade? They just stopped at 11, didn't they?
You may want to try. There's a free one called Libre, Libre.
I got the other one. I saw that one. I got OpenOffice.
Okay. And are you able to open your RTF files?
Yeah, so it's not like I lost the files, because that would have been World War III. But
right.
I mean, I can't run them on the typical platform that I was using. To me, that's not the point. The point is, how is a company allowed to just get into your machine to do updates? And to me, again, an update is what? If I'm updating my kitchen, am I taking my kitchen away?
It's an improvement.
It's an improvement.
Right.
It's upgrading. I'm putting in new tile. I'm, getting a new fridge. I'm not taking the oven out and saying, well, it's an update. No, it's not. That's a removal. That's, so I'm irritated about that. And I'd like to know what else. I'm sure they can do anything they want while they're tooling around in there with their updates.
Oh,
too.
I'm sure. I mean, if you actually read the terms of use, which nobody reads.
They're a mile long.
Right?
And who's going to do that? I don't want to hire a lawyer to use my laptop.
It's kind of like recently I went to a company that will remain anonymous to do taxes. And it's a very popular online tax program service, right? Well, there was something that just didn't quite look right. So, of course, I wanted to give them a call and just be like, hey, I'm having a hard time with the website. And they were like, okay, sir, well, would you walk us through what exactly your question is? And I'm kind of going through this and I'm going, okay, kids, I'll play along. So I'm clicking here and I see that my, number on this particular line item just doesn't seem right. Well, sir, that's a tax question. Well, yeah, isn't that what I'm paying you for? I'm paying you for doing my taxes. Yeah, we can't answer tax questions. That was their response.
Yeah, they're a tax software service, but they can't answer because then what you're saying is because it's related to filing a return at all, it becomes a tax question, does it not?
But then they're actually filing my return. So that's where I was like, okay, there's a gray area here. They're like, well, sir, we would recommend that you actually talk to an accountant who
I'll tell you what,
do that.
The gray area isn't in any of their representatives' brains, I can tell you that, because there's no matter there whatsoever.
And then I find out that Donald Trump is going to release the employments of however many thousands of IRS agents. So I was thinking to myself, why did I even pay my taxes early? I didn't even have to pay my taxes at all, right?
I got a great idea for Mr. What's his name again? The guy who's president?
Sharpie.
Okay, yeah, him. Got a great idea for him. To hell with the Department of Veterans Services and the Forest Service and the Post Office and whoever else you've got your Antichrist puppet digging around in. To let everybody in those let every single person in the government keep their jobs. Cancel the IRS. Just fire those fuckers. Done. Over. Now, I tell you what, I am no, what's his name again? That guy. I am no fan of his.
Elon.
By any means. And as you know, I'm no fan of the guy who's his overlord either.
Oh, Sharpie?
Yeah, Sharpie. I'm no fan of his either, but only as a fucking plutocratic asshole rich person. That's my problem with him, not his politics, which I could really care less about in so many ways.
Like an animal from the zoo. She's so nasty. Look at her.
She's so nasty. Look at her. Yeah. Well, I beat her ass. Yeah. And now I'm going to fire her zookeepers. Yeah. Right. So I'll tell you what, though, if that move was made, I'd have no choice but to say, all right, you got me. I think you're the greatest. Cancel the IR.
Well, here's what
just pull the plug.
That's a great start. But here's what I don't understand is why, if you were part of this new wave of trying to make the government more efficient and save money, why would you fire the people who are supposed to be part of the wing that are bringing money into the coffers? That's what I don't understand. This is where it all gets so nonsensical and comical. It's downright comical. And I know it's not funny at all to the people that have lost their jobs. No. And I actually know somebody who is potentially about to lose their job with the Forest Service. And it's really sad because she's a nice lady and I've been working with her for years through my own private sector jobs. But, that's not good. But the whole thing is just it's farcical. It's literally gone from being sublime to ridiculous. It's like, this is insane. I almost feel like it's a test that we're supposed to pass in some measure. We're supposed to be the one that puts our hand up and says, this is something wrong here. And it's not what everybody else is saying. It's not this technical argument that it's not the way you run the government, and it's not something that you do when you want to establish foreign diplomacy and transportation. And, it's really none of that. It's lunacy. We're being put on here, right? This is a comedy show. I tell you, gravitas can be really difficult sometimes. I mean, we get back to the short that we had posted a few weeks ago, and it's like the guy at the pancake house on Tuesday mornings with his buddies saying, hey, I know how to balance a checkbook. I'm going to go and start, tweedling around in the books of the federal government. And I'm going to start laying off a bunch of people at this agency and that agency. And, because we all know they're not doing their jobs. But then, we're going to get to this point this summer where national parks are going to be closed, areas of the government that, nobody ever really thought about, well, how does that get done? It's just not going to be done. Like there's just going to be like garbage everywhere and there's just going to be people not showing up to work. And that's going to be the new COVID. It's going to be this, because of the government firings and the layoffs, we're having to curtail our services.
Elon Musk is the new pandemic. I like it.
Yeah, he is. Elon is the new pandemic, and it's going to be kind of like the we can't answer that question for you because you have to talk to an accountant for that.
I just want to ask you before we sleep together, Johnny, you don't have Doge, do you? Oh, good Lord. I've been tested. I don't have Doge, honey. Good, because the last guy I slept with, he had Doge. And it took like 6 months for it to wear off. He had a federal job and then he got the Doge. It was terrible.
Oh, I tell you, gravitas can be really difficult sometimes.
Am I sick of that too? Doge. It's like, listen, folks, in your world of acronymia speak that was passed down by the fucking military and all their secret bullshit language, some acronyms just don't work to spell an actual word, okay? So you're going to just be stuck with calling it the Department of Government Efficiency every single time because Doge ain't working. What the fuck is a Doge? A Doge is a Dodge that's about to be sold to a dumb fuck. Yeah, I really like your Doge. Is it for sale? It doesn't work. Forget Doge.
Actually,
Cancel
my kids taught me something the other day because kids, have a very interesting vocabulary these days and a lot of slang that they're picking up on the streets. And I was able to actually learn a few things from the kids the other day, and I actually just brought it up on the interwebs, and I was gonna tell you there's this thing called a Doge, and it's actually in reference to a small dog. Doge. Yes. So Doge actually probably is a reference to a lap dog. If you actually were to look in the MAGA world and look at it from the lens of the deep state, it's the lapdog of Donald Trump. That's what a Doge is. I love it. Doge.
So there you go. Elon Musk isn't his bitch. He's his Doge. For me.
Yes, a Doge is a small dog. So that's what the kids are saying these days?
Well, I don't know. What can any of us do to stop it? It's just, I guess it's one of those things. I mean, the only thing you can do is, like I've said on past podcasts, pitchforks and torches, and it's going to come to that. It'll happen. It's just a matter of time. But it's just a matter of how far it has to get and what has to happen before it comes to that. So we're sitting on the eve of, I believe this is supposed to happen tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know what they're calling this latest mass protest, but it's been started by a consumer watchdog group that's national. I don't recall the name of it, but it's the Great American Corp Out. They're asking all of us not to shop at major corporate entities for at least 24 hours. That would be especially Amazon, Walmart, Kroger Foods, major gas retailers, stations, things like that. Stay away from them. And the reason why isn't because they're corporate overload bastard son of a bitches who've just had this coming for decades. It's because they are no longer supporting programs that are about equity and inclusion. And they're doing this. They're scrapping these to gain curry from the Trump administration. They want to look good in their eyes. And so they're dismissing their, I forget the D. Is it division, equity, and inclusion? Is that what it stands for? The DIE thing?
Oh, the DEI, yeah.
Or DEI, yeah. I can't.
Yeah. Diversity, equity.
Diversity,
yeah.
equity,
diversity,
and
equity,
right.
inclusion. Yeah.
DEI. So they're shucking these so that Father Trump will say, all right, I like them, I'll shop there and I won't tax them, or whatever is the big threat now, because he's not, because they scrapped something that he doesn't agree with, that, he sees as being completely woke, which, I would certainly agree there are a lot of things that are woke and therefore probably insane. I mean, I will go as far to say that in some ways, this extremism that is on, that side of the equation, that really is just like, whoa, just rein in here. We all want, I think most of us, at least, not all of us, but most of us actually want everybody to thrive and succeed. I certainly do. I don't want anybody to suffer. Why would I? That's ridiculous. Why would I want people in the world around me to suffer? That makes my world a worse place if I'm being truly selfish. So why would I want that? So, but nevertheless, that's what's going on. So they're scrapping this because it's going to look good to Trump, and so they're not going to hit him with whatever. It's that whole thing. Not because of the real reason that they should, which is because, as I said, they're corporate overlording, asshole, bastard, son of a bitch, greedy, avarice motherfuckers who've had this coming for years. But of course, we don't care about that because we're so used to it. We're whipped by them. And here's the thing. I'm no different. I mean, as much as Jack Hansen wants to be outside the realm of that influence, I'm not. Walmart, haven't been there since I lived in the Deep South, and resented every second of having to go there. And it was at the insistence of someone else that I did at the time anyway. So basically, by choice, I haven't gone to a Walmart store to shop for over 12 years. By choice, anyway. If I'm living my own life, because I avoid them. McDonald's, give it maybe 23 or so. Haven't been there. Fuck them. Don't eat their shit. It's toxic waste. It's slop. And they also destroy the rainforest, and that's the biggest reason why. They're the biggest killers of the rainforest there is, and they were the number one first killers of them because they moved all their goddamn cattle down to Brazil for pennies on the dollar because they were raising it here, and then soybean counter decided, let's move all the cows down to Brazil because we can bilk them all out of millions of acres of Amazon rainforest. But I do, speaking of Amazon, shop there. And so it's just like, how can you win? And do I sleep good at night shopping at Amazon? Yeah, I guess so. I mean, every so often I'm like, gosh, Jack, you just bought something from Amazon. Don't you feel bad? It's like, well, a little bit, but I wanted that. And so and mostly it's because it was cost effective. We've talked about that shopping local thing before. Didn't we just talk about that on a recent podcast?
Yeah.
Where it's like, gosh, I'd love to shop local for my swim flippers. And these are the ones that I want. And I work my ass off in this ridiculous system as it is. And so why shouldn't I get the ones that I want and settle for something else? So I'd love to get them from Bob's swim flippers downtown. But the swim flippers I want there are $89.95. And I can get them from Uncle Bezos for $29. And it doesn't even have to be a lightning deal. It's just an everyday thing. It's like, I'm sorry, that's $60. And in this world, in my bank account, that's a lot of money. And I just can't, those are too many eggs for me to walk away from. I can't do that.
And they'll be here tomorrow.
Well, so anyway, it's insanity. And, I know I often preach getting away from materialism and all these things. And yet you got to understand, I'm the enlightened hypocrite, just like all of us are. I mean, enlightenment is a process. And when you're stuck in this system and you've been trained to do it, unless you fully go loincloth, as I say one day, unless you're ready to just take it all off and run out into the world with nothing on, except enough to cover you so you don't go to prison or jail, at least for the night, well, then you're stuck, aren't you? And you really kind of are, because the argument that's always made is that whole thing, the Madonna. Everybody brings up Madonna when you get into this argument. Well, Madonna, it's a material world. True. And so therefore there are material necessities and there are material desires that are going to fill it. And I don't think there's a problem with that. I think that's part of the design. The issue is we come back to balance. It's tilted way too much. There's way too many sacks of flour and gold on one side of those scales and not the other. And that's where we have the problem is, well, the 80s. I mean, the 80s scene summed it up. Anything worth doing is worth overdoing. That's the big thing in the 80s, and it's carried forward, and it's really egregious now. So bad that we don't even notice when it's overdoing because we strive for that. We want to be the ones that everybody wants to hit this goddamn $1 billion jackpot. That's the big thing. Oh, if I could win that Powerball. Oh, if I could just win that Powerball. What would you do? You do the same thing everybody else does with a winning Powerball ticket. You'd cash it out, then you'd check out from everything that you've probably been doing and go buy a private island and just drink tequila all day and do nothing. That's not a life. That's not a life that's worth living. Now, if you'd actually take it and do something with it, and I'm not talking about just giving it away, but if you'd build something, or now I can quit my job so I can follow my passion for helping giraffes that have been orphaned, or for, carving kayaks for the disabled so that they can, sail the wonders of the white water, just like wonderful, fabulous. I'm off you winning the Powerball.
Yeah.
But so many of us, the new American dream is what? I ain't working. I ain't doing nothing except sitting around with my money.
Yeah.
There's an episode of The Simpsons. I don't want to get into the plot line because it would take too long. But needless to say, he's a hobo who becomes filthy, stinking rich off the rights to a cartoon instantly. And his integrity is zero. And Lisa goes to visit him and says, don't you care at all about any of the people that you've hurt and are hurting? And he looks at her and says, look, as long as I have my rocket car and my gold house, I don't need anybody. And I love that because it's so insane and it's so true. As long as I have my solid gold house and my rocket car and my millions of dollars, I don't need anybody. And I don't have to think about anything, and I'm not accountable for anything. And that's the problem with capitalism. It breeds that mentality. It breeds, I don't have to do anything. And that comes right down to having a decent bone in my body. I'm rich.
It's interesting you're bringing this up. Not the fact that it's a material world and Jack's a material girl, but that, I think there's a thing that I started noticing. Like, for instance, this time of year, I like to go and get ready to grow my garden. I enjoy vegetable gardening. I think it's like a way for me to not necessarily lessen the amount of food that we have to buy from the grocery store. I'm not like a full-on victory garden farmer at home or anything, but it's something that I've enjoyed. And every year I kind of do the same thing. I go to the box store and I buy way too much plants, way too many plants, and I spend way too much money on stuff that I'm going to put in the dirt just so that I can feel good about myself, or I don't know why I do it subconsciously.
Well, you enjoy it. That's why
I enjoy it.
It's like anybody. Like somebody that goes to get a pair of shoes and a dress and comes home with $1,900 worth of shit from the clothing store. They like clothes.
They like doing it, whatever. Yeah. So one of the things that I've been trying to do is I've been trying to break that cycle this year. And what I've looked at is, how can I do what I enjoy doing, but do it with the least amount of financial input and gain the most from the bounty of the harvest, right?
Right.
And so I've started looking at things like, instead of just going out and buying X, I'm going to go ahead and grow my own seeds at home.
Ooh, don't let them know you're doing that.
Well, and so one of the things that I've started doing is I went to this box that I haven't opened up since COVID, because that was the last time that I started growing my own plants from seed, was during COVID. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't doing it because of some doomsday thing. I was mainly doing it because, well, I was at home like everybody else, trying to, teach my kids from home while I had a full-time job. And I was tired of watching Tiger King on Netflix. And so I needed something to do in between Tiger King episodes. And so I decided to grow a bunch of tomatoes and basil and peppers and things like that. So this year,
Tiger King for being less engaging than it needed to be.
So this year, instead of just going to the store and buying plants, I decided I want to grow them at home, and I want to use the things that I already have as a way to enjoy that process of growing a garden. And in the process of doing this, I've been looking around at, oh, wow, I have a lot of building supplies on the side of my shed. So I started going through my shed, and And I started to kind of develop this whole new kind of outlook of, you know what, I'm not going to just go to a store and pay cash for a bunch of stuff. I'm going to try to do it kind of more economically. And one of the other things that I was looking at was, well, I need some mulch for my garden beds. Instead of just going to the box store and buying a bag of mulch, I found out that, well, arborists love giving people free wood chips.
Oh,
they'll just deliver them to your house for free.
Yeah.
And I happen to know an arborist.
Yes, we both do.
And I said, well, wait a minute. Like, I remember getting wood chips from this guy when I first planted my blueberry bushes. And I actually need more wood chips for my blueberry bushes. So he actually texted me just a few minutes ago and said, yeah, I can have 10, 12 yards of wood chips at your house next week. Free. No cost. And so I'm starting to kind of look at these things and go, okay, break the cycle. Break this need that you've got this rut you've gotten yourself into where you just go to the store and buy something or go to Amazon and just buy something. And maybe just like take a pause, not saying that you have to not buy it, but maybe just look around and maybe there's an answer that you just don't quite see. And I kind of feel like that's where we're at, is we've just kind of gotten into this habit of just doing stuff and we don't even know why we're doing it anymore.
Yeah, there's mindless consumerism, to be sure, even when it comes to things that you'd think wouldn't include that, like planting your garden every season. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I'll at least play like the other side of this equation so people can be aware. You're not the only person, obviously, who's going through this epiphanal process. I'm not sure if that's a word, but this epiphany that you're having is not, relevant only to you. There's a lot of people that are wanting to do what's called homesteading a little bit more, and doing it even in more urban environments where they don't have a lot of space. Well, guess who's taking notice of this immediately and saying, oh, no, you don't. Every single fucker that's making a nickel on that trip to the store is taking a look at that cycle and going, no. We aren't losing the consumer. So lobbyists are already hard at work to pass laws that will make it illegal for you to have your own garden that's any bigger than a certain level. They're also working to tax you if you do have a garden, so that money eventually goes back into their pockets, because we all know where tax money goes anyway, right? It doesn't go into infrastructure. It goes into
Doge.
collusion. It goes into collusion. It goes into large amounts of it anyway, go into the pockets of people who are greedy SOBs that are behind the scenes, who just can't get enough money and don't want to do anything to get it. So the other thing you might, be aware of is they headed off this long time ago. I mean, I believe this is a product of like the 60s or even 50s, if I'm not mistaken. So lest we forget the miracle of the seed, because you brought up seeds. So just like a fish, just like one of my favorite lines from the movie Oh God in the late 70s with George Burns, you try making a fish from scratch. You can't. Same goes for the seed. You can't make a seed. Now, we can dissect it. We can look at it under a microscope and we say, these are the parts. This is how it works. We can't make one. Nobody can snap their fingers and say, here's a seed. Go plant it. A tree will grow. Doesn't happen that way. It was already here. So we've tinkered with it and put the Monopoly guy's monocle on it, although he doesn't have a monocle, unless you live in that Bernstein Bears world, like that Mandela effect. The Mandela effect got rid of the Monopoly guy's monocle. They've put their stamp on it because they realized a long time ago, hey, we can't sell pumpkins and tomatoes and, cucumbers and things that have seeds in them at the store. People will take the seeds and they'll plant their own. And then that will circumscribe their trip to the store to purchase these items, which will therefore remove money from our pockets, which isn't going to fucking happen, period. And so they tinkered with the seeds so that they can't reproduce. So all of the food you buy at the grocery store in the produce department, all of it, There's none of it that isn't like this. It's all been genetically modified so that every single one of those seeds is just there for show. They don't do what they're designed to do. They don't grow a new red bell pepper. They don't grow a new cucumber. They don't grow shit. And they're specifically designed to do that. And that's why. And so if you think that's just the tip of the iceberg, man, I mean, you couldn't be more right. They are, and again, here's the they. And who are the they? They're the sons of bitches that are the same ones that have been out there doing this for years. They're the greedy, avarice corporateers of the world. They're the ones that run the whole thing. And they're real people. And it's not a conspiracy theory. It's not some whacked up, this crazy Jack Hansen, this thing. It's real. They're real people that perpetrate this shit every single day to one degree or another. And they do it to you, they do it to me, and they do it to everybody in between. And that's one of the little insidious things. Now, you tell me how many people know that. With as stupefied as people are today, and for all they might think they know about the world and its mechanics, for as crazy as it is, because we have this big fire pit that's in the between us, and we're just chucking rocks at each other blindly over nothing, over, well, I'm in team red and you're in team blue, and that means I get to bash you in the head. Like, who gives a fuck about what team you're on? Quit falling in line with someone else's ideology just to have a way out. Think for yourself. But how many people do you really think would know what I just said, which has absolutely been true and been true for a long time too? Yeah. Like, those foods they bought in Mr. Mom, the grocery store, same back then as it is now.
Well, they're hybrids now. And so, and I would say probably less than 50% of people realize that. But yeah, you cannot actually take a seed from produce that you bought at the grocery store, plant it, and it won't necessarily become and they do that on purpose, mainly because of some of the copyrights and patents that people have for suddenly, the product or the produce.
So you're telling me suddenly seeds are intellectual property. That's interesting.
It's not the seed that's the intellectual property. It's what the seed becomes. Okay. And do you remember that during COVID, when the USDA warned about those mystery seeds that were showing up in people's mailboxes from China? And they were like, wait a minute, don't plant the seeds. Do you remember that?
Vaguely, yeah.
Yeah, people didn't request. They were unsolicited and they were sent from China. And I don't know what those plants ever were or what they became. I'm sure it scared a lot of people, but I remember these mystery specimens showing up in the mail.
Well, anyway, it's just another thing to be aware of about, the world of thems and theys that we live in. And so you gotta align yourself. To me, that's where the true alignment comes from. It's not, what political persuasion are you? It's not what, Super Bowl team do I cheer for? Jesus, it's far removed from that. Am I aligning myself with team nefarious, basically, with team regressive, really, if you want to get right down to
team clickbait,
progressive. And it bears thinking about. What can you do? I mean, what you can do is you can, of course, purchase seeds from the store. Now, some of those seeds will get you a second generation. I know if you actually do that, but they are, they have been looking at that hard because, as I said, there are a lot of people that are doing exactly what you're talking about, which is homesteading. It's just like, look, shit's expensive, and you'd be amazed. Well, you wouldn't because you've been there, but like I was amazed because I'm not much of a gardener. I don't have a single earth planet in my chart, so I don't exactly have a green thumb, but I have an enormous appreciation for the natural world, and especially for where the stuff that I eat comes from, because it's a fucking miracle. Carrots don't just show up at the store because the stork brings the carrots from carrot land.
And by the way, carrots are some of the most genetically modified vegetable you could probably get your hand on.
Well, that's probably why I went there unknowingly, you know what I mean, to pick that example. But carrots in their natural state are miracles, just like radishes are, just like ginger root. It's just like all of it is. the fact that it's here and that it grows out of a little tiny thing. And I remember planting a garden for the first time some years ago, and I really got that for the first time. I probably should have had that experience when I was a child, but I got it as an adult because I had busted my ass to build this really fancy garden. And it was like, okay, now I get to have a part, I guess, in this green thumbing. And so I actually got to put some of those little guys in the ground and cover them up and tend to them in their little tender first weeks. And then they started putting up. And it's like anything else. It's just sort of like one day it hits you. It's just like, this is incredible. Like, what am I witnessing here? How is this happening? And it's just like, it's happening because it's nothing less than a miracle. And it's a miracle that we take for granted. And people say, oh, Jack's being dramatic again. It's not a miracle. It's just a seed. Look, man, just a seed. You can't make anything that would do that. Not even close. Your computer program, you might be able to program ones and zeros into this machine that you worship so much and get it to grow some plant in front of you. It's only going to be a visual trick. You're not going to be able to eat it. You can 3D print it. You sure as hell ain't going to put it in a salad. So, you might be mindful of those things the next time. And I think that's where it starts. It's all it takes. It's just the recognition of the miraculous world that you already exist in. Boom, I'm here, and it's a fucking miracle. And yeah, Pornhub and internet computers and Big Macs and Takis and Flamin' Hot Cheetos and IHOP Strawberry Bliss pancakes in the spring or whatever the fuck it is. Yeah, that's all wonderful too. But that's all bullshit compared to the stuff that was just here, like you. So you're here. Start looking at what was here. If it was already here, and I mean already here like somebody didn't invent it like Back to the Future or something, great movie, but still kind of what I'm talking about. The DeLorean that went back in time fictitiously wasn't here. That's a construct of man. But all of the parts and pieces required, all the dinosaurs that had to live to create all the plastic parts and all the metal that came from all of the collisions in space with the planet when it was forming that made the sheet thing for the doors and all that was already here. So take appreciation of those things because those are the real world that you live in, not the constructs of the real world that are the material products. They're not the things we whittle into these shapes. And boy, you talk about food is a big one because if it wasn't here, we'd be in an awful lot of trouble. But we have a bounty of food, all these choices.
When you said you needed an honest man, were you referring to Bobo the gardener? He's a blue-eyed son in fear of God, and he swears that he needs no other. Honesty, his words enough for me. You swear it didn't happen.
Now this song needs a metal version.
And he's not smart enough to put it.
What are we listening to today, Jack?
Nice guys. Dan and Goran Fors were the purveyors of this Swedish progressive rock band called Galleon. I wrote them some years ago and told them how much I appreciated their music, and they were very friendly. They wrote me back, and we had a nice dialogue online. They informed me that I was thinking too deeply about some of their songs, though, which were mostly just gibberish that they'd put on a page to fill some time on the album. But hey, you never know what's going to speak to a guy, so.
And you were heartbroken.
No, not at all. I still enjoy it to this day.
Yeah, I love this. This is great. Well, Jack, as always, our time is too short, but until we meet again.
Our time is too short. Thankfully, I am not.
Let's go plant some seeds.
Obo.
His mind is narrow, and his world may be small, but his shoulders couldn't be larger.
Well, it looks like Jack and Michael have finished up their latest chat about all things existence. But if anything they said got your own existence brewing, be sure and catch their other talks at existencebrewing.com. and drop them an email to share your thoughts using contact@existencebrewing.com.
Existence Brewing.